I'm starting off this vlog with a question. How do you decide when you're going to DNF a book? Feel free to answer that in the comments, by the way. So I've been in the mood to read some stuff that wasn't fantasy, and I quite often turn to either thrillers or literary fiction in this circumstance. I've got a couple of holds on thrillers at the library at the moment, so I picked up something else in the meantime. And that was Trust Exercise by Susan Choi. It's kind of a drama school story set, I think, in Houston, but I had to get that from a review because it never says in the book. Or it doesn't up to the point where I DNF'd it. I hate to start off this vlog on a negative note, but I've really just had enough of this book. Some of the reviews that I've read since DNFing it have kind of agreed with me as well. The blurb talks about some mind-bending twists halfway through and at the end, but I haven't got that far and I just can't do it anymore. It follows a group of sort of 15-year-old theatre students. It's mostly about one main relationship between the characters Sarah and David, as well as about all the other characters around them and some possible manipulation by their drama teacher, which makes it sound quite interesting, but honestly I've just had enough. The characters are so overwrought and self-absorbed, and you could argue that that's fine. They are teenagers studying theatre. They are supposed to be overwrought and self-absorbed. In which case though, I do not want to read dozens of pages of excruciating detail of their sex lives. The whole thing is kind of weird and gross and unsettling, and I'm prepared to be unsettled by a book, but no, not this time. So I realised last night that the whole thing was kind of annoying me. I didn't care for any of the characters. I no longer cared what the twists were, and it is time to call it a day on this one. I'm going to move on to something else. It is the morning of some day in June. That will be on the screen because I actually have no idea. Because I fared so badly at the start of the month with Trust Exercise, I decided to pick something else up straight away. I had in my head that I was going to try and finish some of the many other books that I am halfway through whilst I waited for my library holds to come in, but that just didn't happen. I went to return Trust Exercise to the library and spotted something else that looked interesting. So I have picked up, let me get this right, Rainbirds by Clarissa Goenawan. Please excuse my awful and very northern pronunciation. So this one is set in a small town outside Tokyo. It's about a young man who moved to this small town when his sister, who was living there, is murdered. And he essentially takes up her life. He takes over her old job and her old house. I'm about a third of the way through and that's what's happened so far. I am getting very definite Murakami vibes from this so far, which is no bad thing because I really like the Murakami books I've read. So I'm enjoying this one so far. It is set at the start of June in the rainy season, which really is the weather we've been having here in the UK as well, so it's very appropriate. It's been a really nice book to settle in with on a rainy afternoon. So I'm already feeling a lot better about this one than I was with Trust Exercise. The writing is quite pared back and minimal, and I'm really enjoying that. And I'm getting a hint of lots more mysteries to come. Things are unfolding quite slowly, but that's fine. See how I get on with it. Good morning. I finished Rainbirds last night, and overall I really liked it. I will say the ending was perhaps a little bit less conclusive than I would have liked. I kind of went into it expecting more of a mystery, and whilst there was a mystery plot, that wasn't really the point of the book. Some of the revelations at the end fell a little bit flat. Some of the character stuff at the end was quite interesting though, and it had a very melancholy, bittersweet ending, which I always really enjoy. So I think in the second half I was losing patience with it sometimes, but by the end it kind of won me over again. I think my biggest criticism of it is also the reason I was losing patience, that it kept introducing random characters who didn't really do very much and didn't add a lot to the story. I liked some of those characters more than others, but honestly, some of them didn't really need the number of pages that they got. The other thing I would say is that by the end, it didn't really have as much of a Murakami vibe as I thought at the start. There wasn't really much of a magical or weird or fantastical element. So now I don't actually know what I'm reading next. My library holds haven't come in yet, and also our internet is down, so I couldn't get them anyway. Update, we got our internet back. So that last clip cut off quite abruptly because at the end of it I was talking about what I was going to read next, and I was planning to move on to a fantasy novel that I was halfway through. But then one of my library holds came in, the internet came back, so I moved on to that. So I'm now reading The Wife Between Us, which is a thriller. I'm already about halfway through. To be honest, I had a few reservations when I first picked this up. It seemed like it was going for a lot of tropes that don't interest me a huge amount. There was a kind of spurned, possibly alcoholic ex-wife character. There was a very young, naive second wife, and a possibly manipulative husband. At about the 40% mark though, things suddenly got a lot more interesting. There is kind of a clue early on in the book in the way that the point of views are set up. And I kind of thought that was leading to something, but I hadn't guessed what. So that was a really interesting shift. So like I said, I'm about halfway through now and I'm really interested to see where this one goes. I quite often pick up thrillers and I do usually finish them, but they are really hit and miss with me. If I guess the ending too soon, I'm always let down. And to be honest, the ones that promise the biggest twists often don't deliver. I am enjoying this one so far though. The writing style is really smooth. It's really easy to read. A few evenings over the last week, I'd kind of planned to do something else and then found myself picking up this book for an hour or so instead. So I wouldn't have said it was hugely gripping, but I do keep prioritizing it over other things. So maybe I'm wrong about that. So I'm really hoping to finish that one this week. It is another really rainy June morning. I finished The Wife Between Us this morning, so I thought I'd share a few thoughts about that. It took me longer to finish than I would have liked because last week was really busy and I just didn't get that much reading time. I will also say that the book did slightly drag for me in the second half. I felt like it would have been better if it was a bit shorter. Also, because it was a thriller, I was really expecting more twists in the second half. And there were some, I suppose, but they weren't on the big scale I was expecting. So the whole end of the book felt kind of quieter and perhaps a bit more anticlimactic than I thought it was going to be. Having said that, I did think it was interesting that by the very end of the book, the husband, who is such a key character early on, had kind of faded into the background. And the ending really was about all the different women in the book and the way their relationships to each other had changed. Fewer of them came off looking like villains than I'd expected as well, so that was quite a nice change. I won't say I was blown away by the book though. Once again, this is a thriller that sort of disappointed me. I just have this experience with thrillers every time. I go into them hoping for so much, and I'm usually left a bit cold by the end. And I genuinely don't know what I'm going to be reading next. I'd really quite like to read some sci-fi or space opera. That's what I'm writing at the moment, and it's really given me a craving for reading some of the genre. Having said that, I am in the middle of so many other books. I have picked up and not finished probably a dozen in the last year or so, and it's really time I finished some of those. So I'm not entirely sure what's on the agenda next. I'd really like to finish something else before the end of the month if I can. I keep thinking the end of June is here, but to be honest, it's another week away. So there is plenty of time to finish something else. So I will pick something off my very large TBR later today and let you know what it is. It's nearing the end of the month, but I have picked out something else to read. I thought I would update you. I think I mentioned I was quite fancying reading some space opera. and I looked through everything I had on my Kobo, some of which I bought literally years ago, and picked something out. So I have gone for Shifting Reality by Patty Jansen, and this is book 1 of the ISF Alliance series. I think there are 3 books in the series so far. Now, this is one I have had on my Kobo for ages. I think I might have bought it as part of some kind of story bundle. I've only just started this one, so I can't tell you a huge amount about it so far. It's set on a space station where a lot of the inhabitants are Indonesian, and it's following a main character who, at the start, is involved with teaching groups known as cohorts, who are, as far as I can tell, sort of lab-grown kids. There seems to be a lot in the book so far about this kind of growing of humans and cloning, and the way it's carried out by different cultures and groups within the galaxy. So that's been really interesting so far. Like I said, I've only read the first 5 or 6 chapters, but there's a bit of a mystery developing, and I really like the writing style so far. It's very smooth and very clean and easy to read. So I'm not sure if I'm going to finish this one by the end of the month. It would be really nice to, because Camp NaNoWriMo is coming up and I might not have as much time to read as normal in July. But I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into this one because I'm enjoying it so far. It's the end of a very, very hot summer Saturday, and it's also pretty much the end of the month. I haven't had a huge amount of time to read this week. I'm about halfway through Shifting Reality, but because I haven't made as much progress as I would have liked, I will actually update you about that one in my next vlog in July. For now, I'm actually going to wrap things up here. I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done in July because it will be Camp NaNoWriMo and I'm hoping to write 30,000 words. And my work is always really, really busy at this time of year. But I just wanted to say thank you for watching. I hope I've inspired you to keep reading and maybe given you some more things to add to your TBR. I will be picking up a book this evening, which I'm already looking forward to. And I will be aiming to vlog everything I read in July as well. So until then, I'll see you next time.